I thought I'd do a quick prediction video and breakdown of the David Haye versus Tony Bellew fight, which is happening in a couple of weeks on Friday or Saturday. Now, I thought I would just go into their amateur careers, professional careers, the usual stuff I do, what their best virtues are, and what I think is actually going to happen on fight night. Now, first, I'll go into their amateur career. David Haye's amateur record is 93 wins, 9 losses, and his highest achievement as an amateur is a silver at the World Championships, which is the equivalent of a silver at the Olympic Championships. Now, Tony Bellew, on the other hand, he's also got quite a good amateur record, not quite as good as what David Haye's is. He has a 40 wins, 7 losses to his amateur record, and he's won 3 Amateur Boxing Association heavyweight titles at cruiserweight. One thing I like to point out at Tony Bellew is that a lot of people think he fought in amateurs as a heavyweight. I've seen some people comment on this. Truth of the matter is heavyweight as an amateurs is the same as cruiserweight as a professional. So what he actually fought at is a amateur cruiserweight, and he won 3 belts at that, and he has quite a good record at that. So not as good an amateur record as David Haye, and he hasn't achieved quite as much as an amateur as what David Haye did. Now the professional record's quite similar, 28 wins, 2 losses, and Tony Bellew also has a draw on his record. Their knockout rate for David Haye is 87%. I've heard a few myths that David Haye doesn't actually have that much power at heavyweight as a lot of people assume he does. A lot of people think he's knocking a lot of people out at cruiserweight and he's been struggling. I mean, they watched the Nikolai Valuev fight, they watched the Wladimir Klitschko fight, and they just don't think he has that power at the heavyweight. If you actually break down, I've not actually broken it down here, but if you do break down his cruiserweight and heavyweight into separate records, his knockout rate isn't that much different. It's only a few percentages lower at heavyweight than it is actually at cruiserweight. So he does still have a lot of power at the heavyweight in the heavyweight division. He was the first person to stop Derrick Chisora, and he's only ever 2 people stopped Derrick Chisora, even though Derrick Chisora has taken on a wide variety of very good heavyweights, Tyson Fury, Vitaly Klitschko, etc. Tony Bellew's knockout rate is 58%. Now, a lot of people are thinking Tony Bellew is starting to show that he has a lot of power in the cruiserweight division. I think he's knocked out everybody he's came up against, or everyone apart from one person he's came up against at cruiserweight. But even if you show power in the cruiserweight division, you don't necessarily carry it into the heavyweight division. When you're fighting bigger guys, they can take punches a lot better. A good example of that is Evander Holyfield was a massive power puncher in the cruiserweight division, but when he stepped up into heavyweight, just doesn't have that power at all. I think he's got less than a 50% KO rate at cruiserweight. The same can be said with Muhammad Ali. Smaller guys under 200 pounds knocking out the vast majority of them. As soon as he moved up into heavyweight, his KO rates declined massively because he was fighting guys with more punch resistance. So just because Tony Bellew is doing a lot better at cruiserweight with this power, doesn't mean he'll carry it into the heavyweight division. David Haye, yeah, he's went against the rules. He has carried his power from the cruiserweight into the heavyweight division, but there's hardly any exceptions of the rule like David Haye, and it's very doubtful if Tony Bellew is going to carry that kind of power into the heavyweight division. Now, another interesting thing to look at is their world title fights, the record in world title fights. David Haye has won 5 world title fights and he's lost 1. Tony Bellew has won 2 and lost 2. And Tony Bellew, unlike David Haye, has not fought a unified champion yet. So David Haye has been fighting better competition in the professionals, and he's achieved more in the professionals than what Tony Bellew has, with roughly the same amount of fights. When it comes to the size in the ring, David Haye and Tony Bellew both stand at the same height at 6'3". David Haye does have a quite a significant reach advantage on Tony Bellew though. David Haye has a 78-inch reach and Tony Bellew has a 74-inch reach. That 4 inches, yeah, that's going to give him quite a good advantage, especially considering David Haye is the faster heavyweight in here with both footwork and hand speed. Now, a little bit of guesswork for their weight. Tony Bellew is expected to walk in on fight night at 210 pounds, which will be his career heaviest. He has fought as a heavyweight before at 203 pounds, but this should be his career highest weight in the professionals at 210 against David Haye. David Haye, he's looking thinner than he has done against Mark Demori and Arnold Jerajai. I think David Haye is probably going to come into this fight around about 220 pounds. That's just what I'm guessing. He's coming in at is most muscular as well, but very lean at 220 pounds. But that's obviously a little bit of guesswork there, but we'll see on fight night. I think I should be roughly right. What do I think of these two as fighters? I think David Haye is. I think he's got really fast reflexes. I think he's got faster reflexes than any heavyweight ever. I really do. I think he's demonstrated that in fights as well. I think he's freakishly strong and has freakish power for his size. I think he's got speed, both his hands and his footwork. You know, I think he's probably the most athletic heavyweight of all time, and I really do mean that. But he does have problems. He's hot-headed. He has gassed out in a fight before, trying to knock somebody out. He almost made the same mistake against Derrick Chisora as well. Other problems he has is he's not the most motivated heavyweight of all time. He's not the most skilled heavyweight of all time, I don't think. And he's definitely not one of the most ambitious heavyweights of all time. I mean, David Haye right now does obviously care more about the money than any kind of legacy he can actually form in the ring, which is quite a shame for someone that's actually so talented. Tony Bellew is also, he's quite a skilled boxer. I mean, he has showed power in the cruiserweight division, which, just like I said, I don't think it's not going to show in the heavyweight division. I don't think it's very unlikely it's going to show in the heavyweight division. Just looking back at boxing history, that's what it shows. Yeah, he has some speed. He's got some skill. I don't think he's ever going to be a top heavyweight in any division, though. I mean, he has tried. I mean, I think the reason why he's actually taken on David Haye is so he doesn't have to fight Usyk and just lose on points, or maybe get stopped for less money than he would for fighting David Haye. That's what I think about Tony Bellew. I think, yeah, Tony Bellew, I think he's got more self-control than David Haye. I think he's going to need that self-control if he's going to have any chance of beating David Haye in the ring. He's going to have higher boxing ring IQ, because David Haye is just totally outgunning Tony Bellew in pretty much every single... David Haye is outgunning Tony Bellew in every single department. I think he's far stronger, punches far harder, far quicker, more athletic, better footwork. He's got more range on his shots as well. David Haye can also fire power shots from long range. I think as soon as he gets Tony Bellew on the ropes, I think he can finish him. I just think Tony Bellew's completely outgunned in this fight. I think this is a lose-lose fight for David Haye. He's not going to get any praise for winning this. He's going to get a lot of money. I guess it's a win for him because of that. But if he does somehow freakishly lose to Tony Bellew because some mess up or for whatever reason, it's going to be massively humiliating for him. It's going to really damage his whole career and how people look at him, I think. If this fight goes on long, if this goes outside the first 3 rounds, I think this is going to damage David Haye. People are expecting him to knock out Tony Bellew really early. And I mean really early. People are expecting him to knock out Tony Bellew in the first or second round. I want to be a bit more sensible. I give David Haye 3 rounds. So I think if it goes past 3 rounds, I don't think he's got much hope of doing very much in the heavyweight division, and I think he's going to get completely humiliated by everybody. So that's what I think about that fight. I think David Haye would have won 3 rounds, which is what everybody else is thinking anyway. So I just thought I'd do a breakdown on this, a nice easy breakdown for my first video for about 3 months. So that's what I've got to say.